The Finger Lakes region of upstate New York swells with summertime leisure. Drive down Route 14 south of Geneva along Lake Seneca. For most of the year, the little town of Watkins Glen, New York is quiet, but a few times a year it rumbles with excitement when racing comes to town. As it has for decades, Watkins Glen International hosts some of the biggest and most influential racing series in North America. And tonight, it's the GRIDLIFE iRacing Winter Touring Car Classic. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, along with legendary motorsport announcer Greg Kramer. Greg, welcome back. After a trip to Italy and Monza, now we're back home in the U.S. in northeastern soil at Watkins Glen.
Well, getting to show off a little bit of the best of Italy, and now we get a bit to show off the best of North America, and this certainly fits the bill. An absolutely iconic racetrack, home of the Formula One Grand Prix of the United States for 20 years, and as such, it has literally become a mecca of motorsports, and to have us be able to run on it here in our winter series is pretty cool.
Absolutely, and you mentioned a mecca of North American motorsports. It's one of the few facilities that you really put on top. It's with the Daytonas, it's with the Laguna Secas, the Codas, the Sebrings. It's up there with some of the best, and here's a look at it. A track map here tonight. Watkins Glen International, 3.4 miles around, 11 turns, Greg. It all starts with a run down to the 90. That corner used to be the final corner of the racetrack before the climb up the hill in the S's. Now it's turn number 1 before 110 feet up through the very narrow S's and onto the back straightaway.
And you've got to thread the needle through those S's. It's guardrail on each side. Then you come into what could be a good overtaking area, but you also have to thread the needle through that inner loop. And if you get it wrong, the curbs will bite you big time, and then you're suddenly into that outer loop and heading for the boot.
Then down into turn number 6, very scary braking zone here. The track falls away as you get to that late apex, down into the boot. It looks like that because it looks like a boot from above. And then into the toe at the very bottom, one of the lowest areas on the racetrack in the elevation. Climb up out of the toe and then head to the heel before one of the most challenging corners on the racetrack, turn number 9.
Well, exactly. And as you're climbing up into turn number 9, right as you start your turn in and you get that nose pointed to the apex, the track flattens out. And what happens is the back of the car can get really loose. There's no runoff there. It's literally just a few feet and then guardrail. If you get that right, you got to get through a wickedly quick turn number 10 and then on to the final turn on the track. And again, if you get the exit of 11 wrong onto the front straight, guess what? Guardrail. This is a tricky place.
It really
wickedly fast.
So fast. Some people call it the super speedway of road racing. It is remarkably quick, and tonight we'll be running the TCR cars, about 325 to 350 horsepower. The Hyundai, the Honda, and the Audi all competing again tonight. Here is a look at our GRIDLIFE iRacers WTCC Series, round number 2 from Watkins Glen. Again, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Greg Kramer. 5 minutes left here in qualifying. Last week we had 115 competitors try to get into the race. Of course, only 60 were able to qualify, and then only 40 were able to compete in the feature event. So a lot to look forward to tonight. A really exciting racetrack. Again, Watkins Glen, New York, population just about 1,800 people. It's a little town. 100,000 on NASCAR weekend. Constructed back in 1958, or at least the permanent circuit. The distance between the Armco and the S's, 32 feet wide at its narrowest point. It really is a challenging course. While we've got a couple minutes here, we should also mention some season prizing that is on display. So this year, we've got BC Racing on board, and the winner of the championship, the winner of the raffle at the end of the championship, I should say, will get a set of BC Racing coilovers, and another raffle will be for 2 VIP GRIDLIFE tickets, Greg. So not only the VIP tickets, but now BC's come on board and offering up a set of coilovers.
Well, and that's some pretty nice prizes, to be sure, and we really appreciate BC Racing doing that for us and making this all the more of a draw for this season here, and they make a great product as well.
Really excited. Here's a look at the weather for at least the qualifying session. Look at that track temp there, 99 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not cold, it's not hot, but it certainly is on that warmer side, so those slick racing tires could get a little hot, especially if you're sliding around a bunch, so keep those tires cool. That'll be important as well, even in our short races. Qualifying underway. One driver who was not here last time is here tonight in a very familiar livery. That is Tom O'Gorman in the number 94 ASM Honda Civic. And this is, again, dressed up very much like Andy Smedegaard's Honda S2000 that competes in GLTC alongside Tomo. Good to see Tom back. He competed in this exact car with a different livery in the 2019 IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Won 2 races, one at Daytona, one at Sebring, and won 2 other races in the Audi RS3 that is also represented here tonight in 2018 with e-Euro parts. So has a lot of experience in these cars. Think thinks highly of them now here in iRacing and excited to see him go to the top of the board in qualifying.
Yeah, he is something else, putting together those late laps. And, so he's won Daytona, he's won Sebring, maybe an iRacing win, but if he can win at the Glen, boy, that's 3 of the big 4 in the U.S.,
Yeah, he's won at Road Atlanta, VIR, Daytona, and Sebring, so he's got all of the big ones in my opinion. But he's got some tough competition tonight. Andrew Pilata is back this week in the number 96. He was a force to be reckoned with. So was Paul Darling, and so was Matt Corrins in this number 42. He was the winner of the feature event last time around at Monza. And again, we raced heat racing, so he won our feature event and is currently our points leader.
Yeah, chased by Pilata, then Darling, then Colin McHugh. So obviously only one race in the book, so the points are really, really close at this stage. But if you're thinking championship, you always have to be looking at that big picture perspective from the very first race on. And so O'Gorman, obviously having missed that first race, I don't know if he's planning on running all of them to try and get into the championship. If not, he's just going for the glory and the hard way.
Well, we know glory is something that Tomo is good at getting, that's for sure. Qualifying is almost complete. We should also mention we've got trivia tonight. Thanks again to BC Racing. They're going to be providing prizes to everybody watching this stream on YouTube. So if you're watching on Facebook or watching on Twitch, head over to youtube.com/GRIDLIFE to be involved in the giveaways tonight. How this is going to work is at the end of each session, one of them is in just under 2 minutes, we're going to drop in a trivia question. And when you answer that question, one of you that answers correctly will randomly be chosen. Actually, make that 2 of you for each question will randomly be chosen to win some BC Racing swag. So really excited about that. That'll be fun to watch. We got Sean officiating that tonight from the YouTube chat, so make sure that you're tuned in and giving yourself the best chance. I hope you did your research on a couple Grid Life related tidbits, because you're going to need to know in just about a minute.
Boy, and I'll tell you, I looked at that qualifying. O'Gorman's still at the top, but we've had a number of drivers make some late session runs. DJ Alessandrini was knocking on a top 5. He's been bounced back to 8th. If you remember in that first round at Monza, he was really quick and was a player for the wins, but caught up in that big mid-traffic accident and never had a chance to really show. So he's got some work to do. But boy, I'll tell you, Cobb, Darling, and Savage also making a big leap. Yeah,
really good runs for all of those drivers. Before we get into the race, we should also mention the track limits here tonight, Greg. And I sent you an email earlier about this because the way we officiate track limits is maybe a little bit more hands-off than some series here. There are several areas on the racetrack where this area, pretty much everything off the white line to the right, is off track. You cannot run out there to gain time in iRacing. You can go off a little bit, and it'll allow you to do so. Our rule tonight is you can go out there, you can race out there, you can do whatever you want out there, but you got to come back on track without causing a collision. Now, if you go excessively wide, basically out to the middle of this runoff, it will give you a slowdown penalty. That is true in turn 1 as well as in turn number 10, this corner right here. So there's a couple areas that drivers will have to pay attention to. This is that other runoff area. You can't go excessively wide, but a little bit, you're going to be just fine.
And the other area where people often pay attention to track limits is turn 8. But if you run wide there, it's sort of self-penalizing because you lose momentum. You're climbing up the hill. You've run a much longer line. So it's my understanding that if you run wide down in turn 8, that's fine because you're not going to be as quick anyway. And that speaks really quickly to some things that people don't think about this track. This turn 1 and then into 7 and into 8, they're all downhill braking zones, which you lose gravity and you lose gravity's ability to help you brake a little bit later. So it's really easy to overshoot those corners, and you got to really be on your game.
Absolutely. Time for YouTube trivia in the YouTube chat. Make sure that you're tuned in. And Sean will pop in the question here in just a minute. And this is a fun one. I think this question 1 is a Watkins Glen-based question. And make sure that you submit your answer in the YouTube chat. If you are correct, you'll be entered in that drawing to win the BC prizing. So we'll wait for that question to drop in while the field grids. And we'll head down to the racetrack and get a good look. Again, standing starts. This was a challenge last week at Monza, a long run to that first corner. This week, it's a little bit less of a long run, about an 1/8 of a mile down to turn 1. It's a little bit less tight than the chicane ones at Monza, but then it's that run up the S's, which is going to be a big challenge. So we'll see how drivers handle turn 1 here at Watkins Glen. It's notorious, Greg. It's a challenging corner, but starting from a stop rather than a roll, you should be entering a little bit slower.
Exactly, and the nice thing is if you do overrun turn one a little bit in this pack, there's plenty of room to sort it out. But as you pointed out, getting back onto the actual track surface, if you squeeze somebody, then it gets really ugly because you're already at the entrance to the S's.
And the trivia question number 1. Watkins Glen hosted the first race after World War II. In what year was this race held? Just a year is all you need to enter to put yourself in the raffle. And we'll let that go for about a minute, which will probably be a lap or two. And we'll announce the winners when they are selected. Time to go racing, though. Heat 1. This is our odd qualifying drivers. They're racing for 15 spots to transfer to the feature. Green flag flies. We're racing at Watkins Glen.
And O'Gorman getting a fairly good launch up on his outside. Also a good getaway, and that means they are going to be side by side going through one. There's that downhill braking area, watching this whole field, and everybody being pretty mindful of trying to get through this corner and get settled down for these S's.
Here we go, up the hill for the first time. A couple cars still 2 and 3 wide as we get to the apex of the hill. Tomo is free and clear, and I think so far so good. We've gotten straightened out for the most part. Here's a battle. Jason Breen in the number 21. This is a new driver here this week. He's in the Hyundai Elantra, and for the top spot, look at this mess, into the bus stop.
And O'Gorman defending a little bit. I think that's on Darling. Here's that first time you thread the needle. Huge bumps up and through this section of track. Everybody so far has it nailed. A little bit wide there, but it's going to give him a drive down to the inside into the outer loop.
Wow, really impressed. Yeah, we've done, everybody got through there clean. That's really cool to see. A couple of drivers battling a little bit deeper in the field. Duncan James in the 39. That's that beige car on the inside of Alfred Rodriguez. But how about this for 4th? That's Andrew Pilata, Matt Corrant side by side.
Absolutely duking it out. They're 1-2 in the points right now, so they're aware of that scenario here. First time down through the toe of the boot. Here's that little bit of a climb, and then this is where it falls down into that turn number 8 braking zone, into the heel. And they're still side by side. Plot on the inside, Corrins to the outside. And it looks like Corrins is going to round it up. He's a little bit off there, but that's going to get him well placed for the inside up into turn 9. He's going to take it, and really nice job by Pilata there to recognize it, tuck in. He got a good run anyway.
Here comes Kyle Herbst from 5th. He's got those two drivers side by side in front. Corrins a little wide, but looks like Pilata didn't really use all of it now as they come through. Lap number 1 complete. O'Gorman, Darling, Matt Corrins, Pilata, and Herbst your top 5. But the battle is for 15th and better. The transfer position right now goes to the 12 of Jonathan Davis. Christoph and everyone else behind is out of the feature right now. But here comes Christoph down the inside.
Big lunge. Got a great run out of the final turn 11. And really got that nose to point down into the bottom. That's what he needed to do. But you can see by tucking in like that, he may have scrubbed off a little bit too much speed. He may not be able to hold that spot. Boy, this is dicey through the S's. Finally, just tucks in and says, yeah, I'll live to fight another day here.
Really impressed so far. Christoph slots in back into 16th place. Jonathan Davis still in transfer position as we head into the bus stop now. A little bit of a gaggle, and Christoph had to lift there to make that through. Luke Tucciarone slots in.
Boy, this is fun stuff, isn't it? And again, it's all about this transfer. You have to be in that top 15.
Christoph dropped the position and slots underneath Tucciarone, but has to get by that blue and orange. That's that Golf car that he needs to pass. Look at their side by side ahead of him. Darian Taggart in the ASM number 20 and Andrew Lanning in the 28.
Boy, they are absolutely packed up here. And that running side by side, we might see Davis get squeezed there. That could be the opportunity for Christoph. He got a run, but he really couldn't do much with it. Now he ducks to the inside, but he lost a lot of his momentum. He had to check up a little bit or he was going to collect Davis.
Here comes Christoph to the inside. Braked a little early, and now Tucciarone can hear him on driver's left. He's going to go around the outside, so perhaps a little too safe there for Ryan. He's going to cost himself a spot.
That's exactly what happened, and he was just a little bit overcautious there. And you learn early in this series, don't you, that aggression can pay big dividends here.
Certainly. Dana Baczynski, another ASM driver who runs a Subaru BRZ with a K-swap engine in it in our Club TR time attack class. He qualified for the race and got into the feature last week and had a blast. He's new to iRacing, but has a couple more positions to gain tonight to move up into the feature.
Yeah, currently sitting back in that 19th spot, so he needs to get up on it. He's got some work to do. He's attacking on Schneekloth right now. Don't know. Ooh, look at that. Big lunge, high then low and underneath. And rolling some pretty serious speed there. So Duncan James putting on a show, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly did the old over-under. And ahead of them, Christoph losing position to Tucciarone. He's been battling Tucciarone over and over again. But now the run to the bus stop. A couple cars defending in front. Taggart on the defense from Davis, or on the attack on Davis, I should say.
Everybody, you really have to sort of let things settle here once you get into that inner loop, or the bus stop, if you will, and everybody recognizes that. Now flow a lot of speed running through the exit of 5, and now diving down into the boot.
Really impressed with the cleanliness of the racing so far. This was a nerve-wracking track to put second on the schedule with how notorious it is for race starts. Here's a bit of a scrap going on back for 23rd or 24th place. Alex Arteit's just up the road, but Shane Vicari and Tony Barber in the Not Fast Motorsport 37, they're side by side, but this is looking a little hopeless. They're probably going to end up in the LCQ and have to qualify in later.
The pressure's even more intense in the LCQ because it's not top 15, it's top 10. But you grid for the LCQ based on where you finish in these heats. So every spot you can make up is crucial.
Up the hill out of turn 8 and into turn 9. A bit of a hip check there. And I think Andrew Little is the one that got forced off just a touch to lose a spot to Hans Orpedal in the number 59 as well. There he is in the Honda Civic with the Red Bull logos on it.
Everybody being pretty good with not overrunning those curves and those track limit areas. So got to be impressed with what we're seeing thus far.
Absolutely. Here's the 52. This is Eric Pennington in the number 52 car. Started 22nd. He hasn't really gone anywhere yet, running 21st, and is on the inside of Dana Basinski now through turn number 1. Runs a little wide. Basinski backs out, and here comes Alex Arteit with a huge run on the outside and tags. Oh! Big crash.
Oh, it collected somebody else. Couldn't see who it was in the background, and that is exactly what we're talking about. You run wide, and you need to blend back in again, and if somebody's there, see, watch, just caught that rear quarter panel of the 99. But the 99, I think, could have eased over just a little bit and given him a little room. So Dana, not exactly, if you watch it here.
Yeah, so
I guess
the rule was coming into tonight that if you go off track, you are not necessarily allowed to force your way back on course. You have to blend back in, and so that in that case that would be on Arteit there. Basinski was already at the edge of the racetrack, so that was Arteit. There was penalties associated with causing collisions like that, so that's not going to be good for the Not Fast Motorsport 77.
Yep, and that higher shot really showed that there was a bit of a force there. So. Absolutely. But we go back to this race up front. O'Gorman over Darling, Corrance and Pilata 3rd and 4th, and a very impressive run here by Herbst.
Yeah, Kyle Herbst, we've seen him time and time again in GRIDLIFE iRacers in these touring cars. He loves this front-wheel drive platform, loves the bus stop in particular. It's an area where the driver can really make a difference by kind of hucking the car over the curbs, and you see him there at the exit of turn 10 using every inch of racetrack plus a little bit to try to carry as much speed as possible.
Here's what I'm talking about, the exit right here of that final turn. You're right up into the softer barrier and guardrail. And so it's a lot of precision driving here on this wide open road course. But that's what makes it so challenging. And again, it's fast everywhere around here. So you're always up on the wheel.
Battles for position a little bit deeper in the field. Andrew Lanning and Darian Taggart. The 20 car has moved up a couple spots. Well, no, I said that, but he's 13th to 13th, has gone nowhere. Andrew Lanning has gone backwards 3 positions and is sort of holding up a little bit of a train here. They've lost 2.7 seconds to Michael Montello, about a half a sector ahead.
And Jonathan Davis, who was sitting in that 15th spot right on the bubble, now has a little bit of a buffer as he's now in the 14th spot with Luke Tucciarone right behind him. Ooh, that looked like it was going to be a potential end in tears moment there, and everybody gave each other just that little bit of room.
And Ryan Christoph still on the outside looking in right behind this gaggle. He's 16th. He needs one position, and wow, Tucciarone ran wide at the exit of turn 5, and on the brakes the car stood on its nose and the rear end slides on the run down the hill.
So let's see if Ryan Christoph, now we're riding with, has a little bit better momentum. Looks to the outside, and And you don't want to get in too deep here in this corner. Again, it falls away into it, then you get grip. So if you placed yourself right, it can work. He wasn't in that position, did the wise thing, just tucked back in behind Luke.
Into turn 8. This is one of the tighter corners on the racetrack. Pretty tight radius that you don't really expect, so you tend to drift out wide, and you're going to see almost everybody, 1, 2, 3 cars go out over the edge of the yellow line. Fair game in this corner because of how fast the track forces you to rejoin the circuit. They don't consider that off track. That's fair game to use.
Absolutely. It's sort of, as I said, self-penalizing here. And well, this is such a great battle, and it's also such a crucial one because right dead in the middle of it, basically, as we have started our last lap, that's your final transfer spot.
Yeah, one more lap around. That kind of got away from us, how fast these races go, 10 minutes at a time.
Man.
And Ryan Christoph flashing the headlights. He sees that spot he needs, one car ahead of him.
Doing everything he possibly can to distract. Oh, man. That was a heck of an exit out of 1 by Tucciarone. And once again, couldn't do much with it. But if they can freight train, is that Taggart that they might? No, they're not going to be able to do it.
Oh, formation flying through the narrowest part of the circuit. 5 cars in a pack together. And there's 1 car behind. I think that's Schneekloth in the number 40 who sees all of those cars ahead. He just needs to pass 2. They're in the grass on the back straightaway.
It's 3 abreast as they are duking it out here, and there's contact.
Taggart goes for a spin in the bus stop. And that will move Christoph to a transfer spot. Just like that, Taggart got turned around. How did that happen? Let's go back and take a look at it.
Just a bump,
and
then another tag there. He did a great job of saving it, getting right back on the throttle, but you can see there was Christoph shot through.
Yeah, did everything he could to get it back rolling, give himself the best chance he can. He will start high up in the LCQ, but 15th is this red, gold, and white number 46 of Ryan Christoph.
And man, he's been relentless, hasn't he? He has never given up trying to get into that transfer spot. Dropped back a couple of spots at one point, got himself right back up into that 16th spot so that if something happened to somebody up front, he could take advantage of it. And take a look at his driver or his passenger side mirror. It's just blowing in the breeze. He's been in the wars, but here comes O'Gorman. And I'll tell you, he's got Darling glued to him, but they're going to finish 1-2. They move on.
Tom O'Gorman wins the first heat of the night and puts himself on pole for the feature race. Darling, Corrence, Pilata, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Herbst in 5th. In transfer position, came down to the last lap, and Ryan Christoph in the number 46 will be the man to move on. And Schneekloth on down will have to fight it out in the LCQ, including Darian Taggart. That's a frustrating way to go out. He was defending hard before that collision, but he'll have to do it again in the LCQ.
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? On those last laps, when there's transfer spots to be had, everybody's just going to, as you said, just kind of send it, and that's what we saw play out. Up front, O'Gorman and Darling had them covered. Awesome
stuff. So the winners of the first giveaway are Tian Tran and Eric Dewey DeWitt. They are the prize winners from BC Racing. Question 2 is coming here in just a minute as we get gridded for our second race of the evening, our second heat. Again, another 15 drivers will move on. This one also loaded with heavy hitters here, Greg. DJ Alessandrini, Austin Cobb, Emmett Savage, Matt Waldbaum, all back for more this week. And DJ Alessandrini, after the week he had at Monza last time around, I think he is dying for a solid run in this heat race.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had really good speed at Monza, but just, he suffered sometimes from bad track position, and it bit him. And now he wants to get up to the front and be able to deal with it here. And he's starting 4th, so he's got a good opportunity to get after it.
So 20 seconds to grid. There's a look at the manufacturers here. Nice even split between the Audis, the Hyundais, and the Hondas. Now, the Honda has a traditional, and the Hyundai for that matter, have traditional sequential style transmissions with a clutch. The Audi has the DSG, which does not have a clutch and therefore is a little easier to launch. So we'll see how it'll do this time. Second trivia question. There's a tab called Motorsports on the BC Racing website. Which driver is 4th from the top in that list? Time to go racing in heat number 2. Austin Cobb is on pole. Green flag flies, and we're racing it again from Watkins Glen.
Cobb got a little bit of wheel spin, but it was just enough, and he still got a decent launch. Savage, and it was Alessandrini, I think, that also got a good launch as well, but not enough to sneak through on Wellbaum. And here we go. First time for this group And they're settling it early, trying to get line astern before they head into the S's. At least the first half of them did.
First half, as you mentioned, nice and cleanly in line, but behind them still a bit of double file as we head up the hill to the 32 feet width that characterizes Watkins Glen International. Chris Roberts is back in this number 32 car. Oh, trouble behind him. There's a crash, Kevin Zhu, and there's a pile up on the back straightaway.
And that, you just talked about it, 32 feet wide. That's guardrail to guardrail. And it bit him and it caught him. And when you're in a scrum like this, you can see all started, but it just is going to collect car after car after car.
Yeah, thankfully they were far enough along that they were out of the cornering part and could kind of dodge it on the straightaway. Certainly could have been a lot worse. But now Cobb, Savage, and Waldbaum, and Alessandrini for that matter, nose to tail as they head down towards the toe of the boot. Alessandrini rocking the hybrid racing livery that Eric Catil runs on his GLTC car, but with orange accents like DJ's car.
It looked like DJ was going to explore that outside line through the toe of the boot, turn 7. And if you've got the commitment, as I said, to roll in, knowing you're going to lose grip on the downhill, but get it when it starts to climb a little bit, you can make that outside line work. And I think he may have just been out there just saying, can I get the stick I need?
Again, iRacing does model marbles and that sort of thing, so got to stay on line the best you can, especially in this corner. Such a flat turn. Turn number 9, Colin McHugh in that monster car. Real big understeer at the exit of that corner.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You come up, you've got that hill, then it flattens, and you're suddenly carrying a little bit more speed and you lose that bit of hill. So now it's just going to push wide. And speaking of pushing wide, got our first little bump at the exit of 11.
Yeah, a couple cars scraping it as they head down the front straightaway. Here's the 102 of Val DiPietro on the inside of McHugh for turn 1. Gets the right side tires on the curb. Going to force out McHugh wide. If you force a driver out, you have to leave him space. Nicely done. They managed to escape that one without more contact.
Well, smart thing to do, obviously, is to run everybody clean. But I'll tell you what, this job up front by Cobb right now with those other 3 drivers racing each other, it's allowed Cobb to open up a pretty sizable margin.
Yeah, he's got about a 9/10 of a second lead, make it just over a second. Big hop for Matt Waldbaum, caught the curb in a funny way and bounced the rear end. Now has Alessandrini hot on his heels.
And DJ's going to see that and think, man, I need to get through on him here, because if he's going to be bouncing like that, I don't want to get caught up if something happens here. And DJ would really like to clear him, but he needs to do it safely as well and pick his spot. Now see if he floats out a little bit wider again into turn number 7 here. Nope, this time running a little bit more of the traditional line.
So top 5 is pretty much single file. We'll move back to our transfer position. Currently Drew Cleaver in a 717 car, which is the same number he runs in GridLife's Time Attack series. Typically he's running a Tesla Model 3 in GridLife's Time Attack, so a bit of a different torque curve here today, that's for sure. 1.6 seconds back to Marcus Luttrell, who competes in GLTC, and Marcus needs 1 spot to move into the feature.
Yeah, Marcus is doing everything he can, obviously, at this stage, but he's got ground to make up. You pointed it out. That's what a second and a 10th looks like here in that margin right now from Cleaver back to Luttrell. A second and a 10th doesn't sound like much, but on a fast racetrack, it shows up as a pretty big gap.
It certainly does. Christopher Roberts chasing him there. Up front, Austin Cobb leads the way. 5 minutes left, halfway through. Winners of question 2, Scott Hollingsworth and Nick Babin win prizing from BC Racing. Congratulations, guys. Question 3 coming up in just about 5 minutes' time as Colin McHugh and Pendergast in the 53 were side by side for a moment. Pendergast in this very stylish-looking Hyundai Elantra N.
Yeah, it's sharp, isn't it? They really come up with some great graphics here. And one thing I noticed was that we're starting to see now Clark, Montello, and Kundringer have started to close that gap up to the top 4. So they might be joining that fray. And right now, Cleaver just doing everything he possibly can to maintain that gap back to Luttrell in terms of the final transfer. I think it's up to almost 2 seconds now. Yeah,
about 2 seconds is the difference at the moment. Rob Clark had a real poor run through the inner loop. Let's have another look at it as he comes into the bus stop here. He's going to kind of catch a bad bounce on that entry curb. Runs wide here, and then Anthony Montello sneaks up the inside of the 57 and then goes around the outside in the carousel, makes that pass for a top 5 spot.
Yeah, I think Clark, he turned in a little bit too late and therefore had to turn in a little bit more aggressive. The back end stepped out and just got him offline heading into that second curve.
Now pressure from Carter Kundinger in the 0-2. Will he pop out of line for turn 8? Yes, he will. Tucks back in, though, just a distraction for Rob Clark.
Just letting him know he's there, obviously, and hoping for any opportunity. This is what I'm talking about. Right about there, it flattens out. And if you're carrying a little bit too much speed, it's really difficult not to push wide.
Austin Cobb's lead was over a second, Greg, but now it's down to about 0.3 of a second. Emmett Savage, Matt Waldbaum reeling that in. I think I heard Cobb scrape the wall too, so the pressure is on out front.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think the reason that those guys are catching him is Savage, Waldbaum, and Alessandrini were all fighting each other a little bit, and now they've just sort of settled in. And I think for two reasons. One, to get back to Cobb, but two, as I mentioned, Montello and Clark and those guys were coming up on them. And I think they realized we got to quit fighting here, get line astern again, and open that gap up so we can fight on the last lap.
Kundinger got to the inside of Rob Clark through turn 1. They're still door-to-door through the S's. Here comes Zach Rubin in the Civic behind him. That's that blue and red car, giving a push to Kundinger down the back straightaway.
And now pops to the inside. We got him 3 wide, and anybody behind them is going to get a really nice tow.
Oh, look out. Big slide for Kundinger, and somehow they came out through that without crashing into each other.
That was impressive.
I'm hoping that the way things are going, I'm hoping that this kind of racing we can see in the feature, but I'm not going to get my hopes up too high. It's really challenging. Whoa, look at this dive. Mark Sarchevas in the 14 underneath Kundinger, couldn't make it stick, but a big swipe to the inside for turn 6.
He's been sticking that multi-pattern nose in and out on a lot on this lap. Seen him making some big moves here, and hasn't been able to do much with it, but nonetheless, he's still been putting in, just really, again, getting in everybody's mirrors. But sometimes you get off line like that, it slows you down, and you can see now he's got a gap up to Kundinger.
Yeah, it's about 0.4 of a second to the 0-2. It's less than that for the race lead. Here comes Savage right on the heels of Austin Cobb for that top spot.
Yep, they just have worked their way right back onto the rear deck of Cobb. And I think, are we going to be starting our last lap probably here this time? So this is when we're going to see who's got anything left here.
We're going to be really close. It's 2 minutes, 11 seconds. We might get 2 to go this time through. Come onto the stripe. What's it going to be? Don't see a white flag waving just yet. Across the line with 2 minutes left. They've been running 1:57.7, so it'll be 2 laps to go.
Nice. Gives us more time to enjoy this. And you can see Savage's first little look on Cobb. Tucked right back in again. But letting Cobb know, don't make a mistake, dude.
They're actually building a gap on Waldbaum now, so that leaves Savage a bit of room to do something risky. If he wants this lead, he's got a bit of room to make a move, and he's going to take Cobb side by side through the back straightaway. Bit of a side draft there, pulling some air off the wing of Austin Cobb.
Nice job by Cobb not to run him out wide and give him that track. And as a result, the respect is repaid. Savage doesn't force the hit. But look at Savage lost a huge amount of ground to those guys behind him, and suddenly Waldbaum is right underneath his wing again.
Yeah, Waldbaum saw some daylight between Savage and the curbing in the carousel and thought about putting his Honda Civic there, then thought better of it. That was almost a collision, and they did a great job thinking about bigger picture here. If you crash, you got to fight in the LCQ. If you just finish second, you're going to be just fine.
In the background, you can see the margin. There's Montello, and then here comes Zach Rubin, Kundinger, and a huge group of cars.
Cool. Bit of a push from Sarchevas to the back of Kundinger. They're just a little tap, but that leaves Rob Clark all over the rear bumper of Sarchevas now, and going to take him all the way to the white line and then sweep to the left on the back straightaway.
I'll tell you, Sarchevas has speed, but he gets a run, then he gets into somebody, literally taps him, and that slows him down. And right there, we almost saw Lupfer nail the back of Clark.
Yeah, a little bit of games right now, but a hip checking back and forth. Accordion effect as they come through some of the slower corners on the racetrack. For the race leaders, though, this time through, now we're going to see the white flag from the flag stand. There it is. Austin Cobb, Savage, Waldbaum, and Alessandrini 3 seconds clear of 5th place. They'll battle amongst themselves. Hot battle for 6th, though, with Rubin leading the way.
Oh, man, it's going to be side by side as they come by. There's Kundinger moving to the inside. Is he going to be able to do anything with it?
Oh, down into turn
Oh,
one.
I think he's got it.
He's got
Watch
it.
for the over-under.
Carries good speed, though, and into turn two. Looks like Hundinger will have it, but do you want it here? Leading onto a 2,000-foot-long back straightaway, I might want to be in Ruben's position.
Well, especially if you float a little bit wide like that. Now he's pinched to the inside. We'll see, because as you pointed out, you might have the opportunity here, just not scrubbing as much speed. And Sarchevitz trying to figure out, who do I go with here? Decides at the last moment, pop to the outside.
Oh, through the bus stop. There's grass in the air and smoke. There's been a little bit of contact up the road. Waldbaum, I think, was one of the drivers that got a little bit rough and tumble. Let's quickly jump back and see what happened on the run into the bus stop. Was there a touch? There it was. Wow,
Yeah.
Cobb sideways through the dirt. How did he hang on to that?
Oh, man. Oh, and then came in and picked up.
Another look at it. Big slide.
Right there.
Man.
Oh, what a save.
Back out front.
What a save, yeah.
Cobb was able to continue. And, oh, Savage, does he have damage? He's slow.
Something's amiss.
He's back rolling now, but whatever it was certainly held him up for a moment. For second place, Alessandrini and Waldbaum banging doors for a moment.
Well, Waldbaum, with that little bit of a duke, obviously, with Savage, he got slowed up and messed up his momentum, and that's really allowed DJ to get around, but not enough time, I don't think, for anybody to get back after Cobb here.
Well, dramatic last lap.
Wow.
But Austin Cobb, with a slide through the dirt, will come out the other side victorious somehow. To the checkered flag, Austin Cobb will win heat number 2. Alessandrini finishes second. Waldbaum, Montello, and Savage the rest of your top 5. And Savage got a little lucky that whatever happened there on that last lap didn't end in tears. Look at this battle to the line.
Wow. Fanning out, 3-4 abreast underneath the checkers. Great stuff. And at the end, it is Cleaver.
Yes. Last
is in the right spot for that transfer here.
Yep, so everybody from Cleaver on up is in to the feature race. For everybody from Christopher Roberts on down will have to fight in the LCQ. So now we move on to said LCQ. Really excited for that one as we head back to the YouTube chat. And this time we'll be waiting for our third trivia question. But man, what a battle. Even at the end there, Cobb with dead sideways through the bus stop, slides to the grass, returns to the track, and still wins the heat. That's why I'm really excited when we can focus on that battle up front for the entire feature race in a few minutes.
Absolutely. It was a huge recovery, obviously, and was very costly for Emmett Savage. As Montello, we had talked about that huge gap back to Montello in 5th, and he was able to get enough track position as Emmett was trying to recover and got through. Is it possible that what happened with Emmett was a slowdown penalty for the contact in the bus stop?
Yeah, so typically what will happen there is if you make contact in the bus stop and you run wide, you can cut that final corner of the bus stop to avoid a collision, and that will also give you a slowdown penalty. So it wouldn't be for the contact. It would just be because of him running wide after that contact.
Gotcha. All right.
Trivia question number 3. GRIDLIFE Track Battle features different time attack classes. How many classes are there? I actually got this question wrong in the office today, Greg, so this is a trickier one than might seem at surface level.
I'm interested to hear the answer.
All right, here's a look. Left side tower is your starting lineup. This is the LCQ. 10 minutes and only 10 drivers will move on. So there, from Orbital on down, those are the drivers eliminated if the race were to end as it begins. Lions on up. They are transferred 31st to 40th in the feature race. Time to go racing. Darian Taggart did not take the grid, so that will shift and shuffle things a little bit. Oh, there he goes. Green flag. And Taggart did just make the grid just in time as we storm on down to turn 1.
Yeah, it was a late arrival, but he's in. And let's see, everybody behind him. Look at this. It's 5 cars wide.
Are we going to come out the other side of it? Look out. 3 wide on the run to turn 2. Got to sort it out, boys, as we climb the hill.
So far, so good. And Roberts able to maintain the lead. A little bit of, a couple of wide runs there. But I really do think that you're right with the standing start, and these cars obviously are very quick, but they're very much momentum cars. They're not big horsepower cars, so they're not getting into turn 1 and even into the S's with anywhere near the speed they would on a free lap.
Whoa, a couple
I think
cars.
that's really helping, but
yeah, man.
That doesn't apply once they've got the run up to here, does it?
Wow, they did a good job. Everybody got through the bus stop for the first time. I think one car was a little slow. Dana Basinski pulled off to the side of the track. But all's not lost just yet. Here's a battle for second, Darian Taggart and Duncan James. But it is a mess back here for about 15th.
Everybody knows you've got to get up into that top 10 if you want to continue racing here. So this is where things are going to get fairly desperate, and it could get really interesting. But Roberts, he just has opened that margin up to almost a second now. But look at this scrap.
Desperate is the
3
right word
rows
for
of
it.
side by side.
It's great stuff. Andrew Little is the transfer driver right now. Peter Zhang in the 41 to the inside. He's the one that wants it. They're side by side into turn 8. They're going to touch. Big slide by the 68. 41 and 68 going for that spot. Now Peter Zhang's got it with Little on the inside.
I'll tell you, they have been side by side for an awfully long time here. Really impressive what these guys are doing. Now, finally, it settles, and it's Little, the number 68. That's, I believe, that orange car with the white side that now has picked up and is in that final transfer spot. But we know that Zhang and Prasad and Winningham, that group's not going to go quietly here.
Yeah, remember Peter Zhang was kind of on the outside looking in a whole bunch last week, and he fought his way in. So here he is in 11th again. And big swipe to the inside by the 34 on the brakes. Will he try to outbrake the 34? He will. Can he make it stick to the inside, though? Almost a touch as they run out onto the runoff. Oh, they're going to crash. Oh.
Big hit for the 41 of Zhang.
That car is going to have no drive. There's more hits just ahead of them. Oh, Pennington involved also. But how that kicked off, that's a tricky one there, Greg.
Yeah, well, it's just a game of dominoes, you know, and again, when you're running in close concert, and a big lunge here, and it looked like he made it work. He got down clean. Watch it from up here. He ran a little wide. I think he started to lose it when he got up on that curb before there was even contact, though.
Yeah, that curb is a lot taller than you would think it is. It certainly has some elevation to it, and that can send the car sideways, too.
Well, exactly. You get a wheel just in the right spot, especially with a front drive car, and it can just kind of torque steer you right into a little wiggle, and I think that's what happened.
So the winners of the third question, Serpent Stangs and Mitchell Marhefka, the answer to how many time attack classes there are, the answer is 8. I said 7 in the office today and forgot about Super Unlimited, which is in our rules, and that's essentially for tube frame cars. Like if someone showed up with a stock car, they could run that in Super Unlimited. I forgot about it, but it's in the rules. It counts. 8 classes in time attack.
Well done, gents. Congratulations.
So back up.
And look here at Barty. He's sitting in the 15th spot. He's got work to do.
Yeah, needs to gain a few more spots. That's that Acuity Civic. This is a car based on a real-world livery. This is actually painted by our very own Rob Wilkinson, who's one of our photographers at GRIDLIFE. And painted this for the Acuity guys, and they run a car that looks almost identical to this. It's a Honda Civic Type R street car that runs in our time attack series.
I'll tell you that you think of teal and purple, you don't necessarily think they're going to look good together, and they do.
They certainly do.
Really sharp.
It does look good. Battle for position in the transfer spot again. It's Andrew Little who still has the transfer spot, but Gil Winningham in the 811 that's a Castrol Hyundai. He's 0.6 back and has a little bit more pace than Little ahead. His last lap was a 1:58.503, 2.5 tenths quicker than Andrew Little just up the road.
And Blaze isn't that far back either, so he's also going to be real interested in what's unfolding. Oh!
Big slide by Tony Barber. Front wheel drive saves it, but they're going to pile in at the exit of the inner loop. Oh, man.
59, it went absolutely pear-shaped there.
Yeah, trouble for Orpidal for sure. Let's see again.
Yeah.
This is all after the collision, so Barber saves it, and then right here as they're collecting, it's the 22, I think.
Yep.
That triggers
Just
that whole thing.
Little tap, moved him over into the third car, and then that's where they ended up getting walled.
Well, that's going to shift.
Look at this now.
That's going to shift our transfer position. It's Jimmy Kenevin in the 26 car now. This is the purple and teal car, and Troy Sharon behind in the red and white. That's the first car out as it stands.
There's Sharon, okay. He's sitting in that key 11 spot. Needs to find one more position here. Not going to be easy to do, as Luttrell right now is a second up.
Also, I also mentioned that Dustin Barty, I was alerted that Dustin Barty also runs an Acuity 8th Gen Civic in GLTC. Can't obviously forget about his GLTC efforts, so he's running in 12th. He's 2 spots shy. He's the next man back from transfer, so if things get a little rowdy ahead of him, he's in position to strike. And honestly, I think sometimes you're better off being in 12th and waiting for people to wreck in front of you, because then you're not putting yourself in that high-risk situation that gets you taken out in the last chance qualifier.
I think there's something to that, no question. And right now, Luttrell, we've had another shift because Luttrell is now in the transfer, and Sharon is the next guy up.
Yeah, Kenevin passed Luttrell, so Luttrell is now the one on the chopping block should he lose a position. It's about half a second back to the number 4. That's Troy Sharon in the red and white Honda Civic. And Troy carrying a lot of speed into the bus stop. Big shortcut there using all the curb. And look at Kenevin up the road, almost off course in the bus stop.
Yeah, Sharon, he really turned in early, didn't he, into the bus stop and just threaded it to perfection.
Ooh, look at this battle just up the road. Marc-Antoine Blaise taking a swipe at Andrew Little, who's gained a couple spots, so he was about to be eliminated earlier, but he's moved up safely into 6th place, now battling Alfred Rodriguez for 5th.
Oh, look at that, a little bit wide right in front of Little Rodriguez, floating it out a little bit. Does that give Little enough of a run? It does not. He has to tuck back in. And then there's the 15 of Blaise, that purple machine.
Oh, man, they're stacked real tight together here. Makes me nervous. And Luttrell now with that holdup. They've kind of fallen in. Oh, look at this dive up the inside. And wow, Blaise makes it stick and squeezes by Little and puts himself into 6th place. Now here comes Gil Whittingham.
Yeah, and Rodriguez had an opportunity to open the gap up, and I think he hit that guardrail exiting that tricky turn 9. Not hard, but enough where he had to really breathe it. And that now has allowed Blaise to be right on his 6. There it is.
Should have some overlap into turn 1 as they come out from behind the pit terrace grandstands and into the first corner really late on the brakes. Is he going to run wide on exit?
Yeah.
Way wide. Carries speed and clears the 22, so not wide enough to get the penalty, but had just enough space to return to the track.
Well, I mean, you know, if he was that fast in, if he tried to actually make it within the confines of the curb, he was going to scrub a huge amount of speed. So he took that risk. But now look at the counter move here as the opportunity presents to try and maybe sneak back through. Can't get it done.
Oh, big jump over the curbs there, straight lined it. Sometimes you can get a bad bounce in the Honda that sends you off course. But I think he's made it through. So Troy Sharon still, actually, he's moved into transfer, the number 4. Dustin Barty is the next man who wants a spot to get in. He's going to have to pass 1 car to do it. And now Troy Sharon is in and could get booted if that 3 car can just catch a couple more seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, think about it. We were talking about Barty a while ago. He was in 19th. So a lot has unfolded in not much time here. And he knows anything can happen up in front. Stay as close as I can here. I might just be able to pick up a spot or 2.
We're going to have 1 more lap after this. Chris Roberts has a commanding lead over Darian Taggart, 1.7 seconds. Little wide there, grabs some dirt on corner exit. But they should be coming to the white flag, but they are running out of time, 15 seconds. Yeah. And I think he's slowing down. Maybe, yeah, he's definitely slowing down to try to get this race to end early. 7 seconds. There it is, checkered flag, and he's done it. So he slowed down the pace down so that he could get that checkered flag, and we will. Chris Roberts wins, but that's going to put Dustin Barty in a hard position because he might have needed that extra lap. I think he's going to miss out by half a second as they come to the stripe.
Look how close it is at the line. There's Sharon in the red and white car, and just a tick literally behind him is Barty. Well, he gave it a heck of a run, though.
Certainly did. Gained 7 spots en route to an 11th place finish. Nicely done. Your 10 competitors that will move on: Chris Roberts, Taggart, James Vicari, Blaise, Rodriguez, Little, Whittingham, Luttrell, and Sharon. Those are your 10 that will start the next race, the feature race, in 31st through 40th. Wow, that was some good stuff, Greg. I was really impressed with the racing. This is a hard place to get a clean first lap in, and they did a great job.
They really did, and I think everybody understood it and then promptly forgot about it a little bit when they got up into the inner loop on that first lap. But getting through that first turn and through those serpentine narrow S's, really, really stout driving by everybody there to be clean through that. There's a look at that inner loop entrance. And you see that guardrail that just juts there. And if you're thinking about really cutting to the inside early and you get squeezed, that could be an unpleasant moment right there. There's an indication of the drop down into the boot.
Yeah, I will admit that I have hit that wall a couple of times trying to maximize the entry speed, but there's a look into the toe of the boot, which is not quite the lowest area on the circuit. The lowest area by elevation is actually the bottom of turn 2 before you climb up the S's, but the toe of the boot, you basically hit the bottom and climb up a mountain, digging yourself out the other side of that 180-degree turn. Certainly a lot of fun. The boot is a great section of racetrack.
Well, particularly if you're as a spectator, if you're on the outside of the track in the boot between the toe and the heel, there's a hillside, and if you're in the right spot, you can see cars all the way through turn 6, down through the laces and the toe and into the heel. And you've got cars going one way and cars coming at you. It's an amazing place to watch racing. And that guardrail we were just talking about, I had the pleasure of flagging there during their big historic weekend in September one year, and man, what a place to watch race cars.
Unbelievable place for sure. 30 seconds left in the gridding process for our feature event. Trivia time in the YouTube chat, so get ready for our fourth and penultimate question of the night. Our last question will come after the conclusion of our feature race, so make sure that you get in and get ready for that second to last question. That will happen in just a moment. Time to go racing, though. This race is now 20 minutes. This is our feature event. Your starting lineup is on the left-hand side of the screen. O'Gorman and Cobb are the ones starting on the front row. 20 minutes, 40 drivers, 40 of GridLife iRacing's best. Time to go racing from Upstate New York and Watkins Glen. O'Gorman, Cobb, Darling, Alessandrini, and Corns, your top 5. And here we go. Ready for those tires to spin and a launch. Green flag racing from Watkins Glen.
Boy, did Tomo nail that start. No wheel spin, got a great launch, and gives him that bit of breathing room down into turn 1. Behind him is where we see everybody stacked up. Ooh, and a couple of cars running way wide on the approach.
Yeah.
And I think they all got through it. No, one car spun, but I don't think there was contact. I think it was all avoidance.
Yeah, I think a couple cars got a little sideways there. Oh, this is not going to work out. 3 wide through the S's. Somehow they did it. We get through it. Nicely done, everybody. First lap through. Turn 1, a couple casualties. Now we're going 3 wide because why not?
That is just insane, and they're making it work. But now, here's where it can all come to roost here as you're trying to set up and get into this inner loop. There's a touch. Going to send one car spinning. Now, is he going to collect coming in? Great awareness by everybody as he came back on track to give him a little bit of room, and the number 64, I think it was, did a nice job.
Yeah, Blaze was the car that went off in the bus stop. One other car just went hard off. Steve Luca back on the racetrack, gets clobbered, and now it's going to be a stack up here as we go down the hill. Tough to miss that with the track blocked. Austin Cobb is one of them. Where'd the 36 car go? He somehow got back here and into the mess after starting on the front row. I think he had some connectivity issue, I think, is what put him back there.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think he made it by the time the start happened. So I was watching for him to pop in.
So O'Gorman,
that's why he got demoted. But, boy, that's one of the reasons you want to qualify up front.
O'Gorman is out in front. Battles around the racetrack right now as Tomo leads by 0.8 of a second. And trivia question 4 is what car is featured on the events page for GridLife's 2022 Midwest Festivals? Make sure you drop your answers in the YouTube chat as we got cars running off wide in 10. Again, fair game as long as you don't cause a collision returning to the course. Alessandrini now battling Darling for second.
Boy, and look at Tomo doing everything he can to make sure that nobody gets any kind of a toe off of him. Oh!
Man, DJ hooked the grass on the entry to turn 1 and got really sideways, but somehow hangs onto it.
And Corrence right behind him. There he is in that primarily orange car with some purple highlights.
And last week's winner.
Waldbaum right behind him, yeah. And Darling, sitting in the second spot, is the best placed in this race of the guys up near the top of the points after last weekend's race. So Paul is going to be enjoying that if he can maintain it.
Here's Montello and Pilata side by side into the inner loop. Montello grabs the spot. Bit of a shortcut there, but I think he'll get away with it. Touches the brakes to rotate.
See what Herbst is going to be able to do in that bright yellow car. And then we know the 29 is Savage behind him has some serious pace. See if he's able to work his way up a little bit here.
Nice rotation, gets a good run, heading down to the toe. The boot swings to the left. Tough pass to make on the outside of the toe here, Greg, but he's rolling good speed.
That's what I was saying. If you're close enough going in, you
oh!
can run that. Oh!
And collects
Whoa.
Herbst on corner X. I think Herbst ran him a little too wide. We'll have to go back and look at it from up above, but I think he just crowded him a bit too much on corner exit, and I think Savage was not willing to back out. Here it is again.
I don't know that Herbst realized he was there.
Yeah. Well,
and around he went. But what Savage did there, as I said, it falls away going in, but then mid-corner you get that bank as it comes up. And if you are far enough along the outside going into that turn, you can get on that left front corner. You'll get stick. And you can then drive your way right around and do the rim shot. And that's what he was trying to do.
Carter Kundinger and Ryan Carwile door-to-door through the final corner. Austin Barnes is chasing. He's going to sweep. We're going to do a 3 wide on the front straight here.
Pushing hard right down that inside line, and finally decides, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes left in this race. It's not exactly an endurance race, but maybe not worth the risk on the opening lap. Ido Waxman in the blue and white Audi sneaks to the inside. He wants a spotter 3.
Whatever he can grab, right? That's an interesting graphic on that car, too. What a pack we got here.
Carter Kundinger sees the spotter clear him to the right and will go for it. Now tucks back in line for a slipstream down the backstretch, and it's like Barnes is out of line again on the run to the inner loop. Look at the cars hopping over those curves, Greg. It's so fun to jump them, but it's so scary when you get the car airborne. The tires don't grip very well when they're not touching pavement.
Well, exactly, and if you're on the edge of adhesion anyway, then you get a big bounce. As you said, you know, even the car coming down and compressing a little bit, it can still skate, and then you can either lose it on your own or get tapped, obviously. And everybody so far managing to just hang tight.
Man, it is almost all Hondas in the top 7 right now. 6 of the top 7 from the Honda camp, and that's actually a bit surprising. We talked last week at Monza about how it seemed like the Audi was the quick car to have in a straight line. I thought that would have mostly been true again here today. And the first Hyundai is Savage in 8th, so not a lot of the Hyundais this week. I hear some contact behind, a couple cars leaning on each other. It's Michael Montello and Jonathan Davis who had a bit of a coming together.
Well, if you're going to be aggressive, this is the race to do it in and try and get something done. Jonathan Davis back right now outside of the top 15, not where he wants to be.
He is plus 6 though, so he's up a few spots.
Yeah, he's doing the job. He just started a long ways back.
Oh!
And and there's that little bit of a grind down that barrier here, and that's going to slow him up and maybe give a nice run to the number 7, a Ruben.
Yeah, that was a pretty big hit too. That might cause some suspension damage, but that is a safer barrier, so it's a little softer than it otherwise would be. But Ruben will take the spot. Almost thought he was going to have him cleared. Didn't quite get there though.
I did too. That was pretty amazing by Davis, the amount of speed he was able to carry. Again, running that line, they are still side by side with some company now. You see the push coming from, is that Ruben? From Montello.
Michael Montello.
Yeah.
Oh, big curb hop there for Davis. Skates around, and there's the crash. Ruben in the wall.
Yeah, he just got 2 sideways, could not save it, and then it just speared right in.
Another look at this from a slightly different angle here. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Got the rear end sideways, and there's a touch.
Tap.
Oof.
Sure was. Oh, that was a big hit.
Bumper goes skating across the surface. Let's check up front. Tom O'Gorman's lead has dwindled to under half a second, and Darling and Alessandrini have run him down. Thought Tomo would have a pretty commanding advantage, but it has gone away.
Well, and I see Tomo, you know, anything that's resembling somewhat of a longer straight, he's doing the bob and weave, trying to break the toe, but he's also driving, as a result, a longer distance to get to the corner. And I wonder if they're just not taking advantage of that just a little bit.
Well, I think the slipstream is pretty hard to defeat here. Again, that's why I thought the Audi would be more of a dominant car. And I think it is, too. So I think Darling is helping pull Alessandrini and Corrence back up to O'Gorman. There's Tomo again diving for the inside lane. Whoa, Alessandrini slammed the door on Corrence there, didn't he? Holy cow.
Yeah, Corrence recognized it, popped right out to the outside. And I think Alessandrini was just trying to break the toe as well. Didn't realize just how close Corrence was at that point.
Very is the answer to that. He was very, very close.
Yeah, like in his lap almost.
Here's Corrence now with a big run. Going to put DJ in the right side mirror for a moment, but now back in line. I think DJ is going to want Corrence to work with him, but Corrence doesn't seem to be amused by that thought. Bobbing and weaving on the back straightaway.
Well, exactly, and I think that might be because of the chop that Corrence got. And so he's saying, oh, it's like that, is it? Now he's going to go after it and run here.
A couple battles further on back. Kundinger, Rob Clark, Christopher Roberts, and Andrew Lanning going for a pass. This is for 15th and 16th.
Well, they've seen a lot of each other. And then the recovering, number 32, Roberts, Yeah,
31st up to 16th. So that's a 15 position gain for Roberts.
Shows that Audi definitely has some pace.
Yeah, he was buried in, I don't recall exactly what had happened to him in his heats, because he was running up in the front of one of those heats and then ended up in the LCQ somehow. But now battling with Lanning on the back straightaway, 2 tires in the grass, pulling even with Lanning.
Side by each. Down into that toe of the boot.
Up the hill.
Really wide run there, but he gathered it up.
With a scrap up the road too. Rob Clark in the Hyundai a little wide.
Kundinger, I think he was the one who ran wide down in the heel of the boot in turn 8. A little wide there again, but not enough to really cost him anything. And Clark then Venkat. Work on that one. Venkataraju?
I think that's the best. I wasn't going to be able to guess anything better than that, so I'll give that one to you. But here comes Roberts into turn 1, still right up on Lanning. Lanning carries really good speed on entry in that Hyundai. We should also just take note that up front, it has just been everyone's efforts to try to keep that 94 in sight. And Darling is keeping him honest, but I'm not sure that Alessandrini and Corrence are able to keep pace with these front two.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. As a result, you can see that little bit of a margin starting to grow. And O'Gorman just set his best lap on his last lap, so he's,
man, using every inch. Watch this here. 4 tires on every curb, grabbing the grass. That is the pro driver instinct there, to just use every inch of pavement that you can and hippity hop and skip across the surface.
You know Mario Andretti's famous line.
I don't.
You don't want me to race on it, don't pave it.
They did plenty of that around here, and Tom's used every bit of it. I recall back in, I think it was 2017, when Tom was racing in Pirelli World Challenge in the TCA car, that I think he would ultimately go on to win the championship in. They had about 300 pounds of rewards ballast in his Honda Civic, and he still won the race handily here at Watkins Glen. So he knows what he's doing. This is his second favorite racetrack, right up there with Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So I think he's right at home right now.
Well, Tom is a great purveyor of the what I call flowing speed, and he understands these are momentum cars, and he understands that when you don't have a honking motor, you want to keep that momentum up at all costs, and he's just become extremely good at it, and it shows even in this game because it's all about smooth and precise.
He's doing just that right now. 8 minutes to go. And O'Gorman's lead is now 0.6 of a second, a little bit deeper. Here's Austin Barnes and Waxman fighting for position. Barnes in the light blue Hyundai and Waxman in the kind of shark camo Audi right now. They run a little wide on the exit of 1, and Waxman's got some speed. To the inside he goes for turn 2.
It's a beautiful line. He's able to set that up to perfection.
And I think this is going to work for him. Gets the right side tires right next to that Armco. But now it becomes a drag race. Which car's got more legs? Audi versus Hyundai.
Wow, absolutely. And it looks like it might be that Audi, which is what you were alluding to just a little bit.
Nicely done. Excellent bus stop. Misses that far left curb, though, and lets Barnes get right back up to the tailpipes. And just behind them, there's a pretty fierce battle. Kundinger and Rob Clark. These two have had a couple of go-aheads tonight.
Yeah, they seem to have been in lockstep in virtually every heat that we've seen them in. Getting a little tired of that view, I would imagine, but still pushing really, really furiously at this stage.
Bright red car, easy to spot.
Yeah.
Through the toe of the boot. This is another corner that is an interesting one because I feel like you can generally take a few different lines through this corner depending on what kind of car you're running. You can kind of run the rim shot and kind of bank it, use the uphill to your advantage to slow the car down, or you can kind of enter wide and tuck it in real tight for a late apex. A few different ways to run that corner. It's a pretty fun turn. Wow, a couple cars way off the track, and Waxman's one of them. He was in the dirt at corner exit.
Yeah, it was Kundinger who went way, way wide. And he's been out there a couple of times before. I think he's struggling getting the car slowed down into 8. All right, he wasn't quite that wide.
I think I have to laugh because the short course here at Watkins Glen got additional pavement 3 consecutive years because the NASCAR guys kept extending it manually by running over the grass at the exit of the short course. So they paved that 2 or 3 different times to extend it, and now it essentially runs from the exit of the carousel all the way to full course turn 10. It really is kind of funny, but here's a battle for the lead. Darling has caught Tom O'Gorman with 5.5 minutes to go. Will he go for a pass? Or will he stay in line? He's going to go for it here.
He's going for it, and these two have made good their escape. This is right now down to a bit of a mano-a-mano battle, but if they don't get this sorted, and that was a savvy move by Tom to not force the issue into the bus stop because it would have slowed them both up, and that just brings the rest of the field. And you don't want DJ Alessandrini and Matt Corrance too close.
No, you don't. DJ's got a lot of history in professional esports competition, so he's been able to science out pretty much every game he's ever played, including iRacing, and he's really hard to beat. And I think having Tom in here beating DJ just goes to show how good Tom is, even in an environment that I would consider a bit more unfamiliar than his real-world environment of racing. Look at Clark and Kundinger going at it again for 12th position, still very fierce here.
No, they've just been relentless on each other, and now you've got Lanning right in the mix, and Roberts, who continues to impress with his march up through the field.
And Roberts sees these guys battling.
Lanning's move.
A little bit of door slamming here up on the back stretch, and here comes a run from Roberts.
Yep, they were side by side. He got a nice head of steam built up, and a nice move too. Instead of trying to make it 3 wide and get all hung up, he just decided to tuck in behind Lanning. But look at Kundinger. Work that outside line. He's familiar with that down there at 8, and he might be able to get right back. Now he dives to the inside of Lanning.
Oh, man, that's a fun move to make. Dive up the inside for 9. But here comes Roberts, 3 wide on the run to turn 10. No, now they're going to get back to 2. It's hard to do that. This is such a single line corner that you really can't go through side by side, but they've done it now and enter the final corner with 4 minutes to go.
Now, did anybody get offline far enough that they're going to struggle here at the exit? No, everybody driving absolutely superbly.
Battle for 15th, make it 14th into turn 1.
Venkatarazu behind everybody watching, and again, Kundinger runs well wide. Oh, look at this.
Battle for the lead again into the bus stop. Darling and O'Gorman, and Darling gets it back from Tomo, and now Alessandrini is firmly within drafting range. The top 5 coming back together here.
And now Tomo, a little bit tighter line. That was a tough minute there for Darling. He just floated wide. He's up on that curb. He's got decent momentum, but Tomo was able to square that corner off just a little bit.
Game on.
Able to make it work. He's on point right now. But look at Darling, then Alessandrini, Corrance, and Waldboom are all right there.
Yeah, Corrance might be the wild card here. I know Darling, Alessandrini, and Tomo are pretty used to racing each other and generally race pretty fairly, but Corrance is going to throw the hat in the ring here and race against them and not necessarily with them here these final couple laps. This will be fun. He's going to drive the stake between all 3 of these guys.
Well, and that's the same thing that DJ did to Corrance on the front straight a few laps back when he just sort of chopped across on him. And I think Corrance is going, all right, I'm going to just get around you now and not have to deal with that anymore.
Oh, going to run DJ all the way to the curb, and here comes Waldbaum.
Yep, that's going to slow them up, at least for DJ. Waldbaum's going to dive down to the inside here into turn 10, but That outside line is going to give DJ a little bit more exit speed, tucks back in, but now he's fourth as opposed to third.
2 laps to go now. 2 minutes and 11 seconds remaining. Tom O'Gorman still leads. He's led almost every lap so far. Darling right behind him. For a moment, it thought that the next 3 would be right with them, but with Corrence aggressively passing Alessandrini, they've fallen back about a second, but I don't think it's over quite yet.
Nor do I, and behind them, Pilata and Savage are having their own solid little race for that 6th spot, and they've been pretty much covered by each other here the last couple of laps. Really a good scrap here, and they've got a huge margin back to Montello. And look at this, here we go, side by side, as does the group in front of them.
Yeah, they were working together. I think they've given up on that now. They just ran lap times that were all faster than the 5 in front of them.
Yeah, huge bump at the exit of that curbing by Savage, and it almost unloaded him right into a spin.
That's the risk you take when you try to shortcut the track like that. It will launch you skyward. Corrence and Alessandrini continue to battle, and I have a feeling that there's going to be some significant frustration with these two at the end of this race, because they are just continuing to stab themselves over and over and over again and can't quite run down the 2 ahead of them while they battle amongst themselves.
Yeah, every time they catch the 2 up front, then they decide to get racy, go after each other. And O'Gorman and Darling, they had their couple of moments where they swapped positions, but it was always uber clean. Look at this move. DJ now, as we just saw Corrence run a little bit wide. DJ thought he might have opportunity, but I think Waldbaum's down to the inside of DJ now.
Yeah, he's going to be drag racing him to turn 10 again. They went through here side by side last time. Waldbaum thinks better of it. For the race leaders, it's going to be a 2-horse race for first place. Final corner on the penultimate lap. This time they're going to get the white flag. It'll be 1 lap to go from Watkins Glen for the GRIDLIFE iRacers Winter Touring Car Classic.
Flag is flying, 1 lap to go. And one thing that Corrence, Alessandrini, and Waldbaum battle is doing is it's bringing Pilata and Savage just a little bit closer. Love this shot, the exit of 1. And now you feed it in. They used to have, for a few years here, a chicane right there before you'd start climbing the S's after a couple of really nasty crashes in the S's in the F1 days. It was removed when they widened the exit to 1 out. But look at this up front, side-by-side battle, final lap.
Here they go into the bus stop.
And the Audi's got the legs.
Oh, curb hop there. Here comes Tomo now.
Yep, exactly. Darling was a little late on his turn in, but he just had enough in hand, Kyle, to hang on to it.
Tomo lost that race lead a couple of laps ago, and here is the dive from Tomo into turn 6. Has the overlap now. Can he carry the speed down the hill towards the toe?
Now let's see if he's up alongside. Now he tucks back in again. Now he pops out. Is he going to try the rim shot, or is he going to try and square up underneath? He's doing the square up.
Look at the run.
The over-under here, and he's got a little run.
Here comes the run. Darling goes defensive towards turn 8. O'Gorman sweeps to driver's left. If he can keep overlap here, he'll have the preferred line going into turn 9. Here they go.
Down through the heel of the boot. You don't want to be a heel coming out of the boot, and everybody nice and clean. O'Gorman's got the inside line into 9. He's got it.
He's got it.
Can he hang on to it? Here comes Darling. Has to tuck back in.
2 corners left. O'Gorman with the textbook move to the inside of turn 9. Penultimate turn for Tom O'Gorman. Fighting tooth and nail, lap after lap. Darling is right there. Final turn, final lap. GRIDLIFE iRacers Winter Touring Car Classic to the last turn on the racetrack. Checkered flag waves, and it's going to be Tom O'Gorman claiming victory in his ASM Honda Civic here at Watkins Glen. Darling, Corrence, Alessandrini, and Waldbaum to the stripe. Top 5 battle. Unbelievable stuff there, Greg. We're still not done. Still some battling. Final corner here for 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Big field producing great racing everywhere. Pop move right coming across the line. It's not going to be quite enough. Wow, some great stuff. That was Christoph being attacked by Venkataraju and just couldn't quite get it done.
Man.
What fun.
That was fun. Unbelievable. Let's go back and have a look at the fight between Darling and O'Gorman as they came to the last couple of corners. Let's go back a little further. And watch this, and I'm just so impressed. And this is something that Tom knows here, but watch this. This is the move that wins the race. So Gorman sets up this run, but typically you'd want to go drivers right here into turn 8, but Tom's thinking 3 corners ahead. He's going to go to drivers left and get himself set up, not for this corner, but for the one following, and this is what's going to win him the race.
Absolutely, and you talked about it. You said get that overlap. Well, he went in just deep enough to make sure he had some overlap, and all credit there to Darling, who didn't run him too far off, but it did give Tom the inside. He got the nice rotation at turn in. And I think Darling, you get a little wide in that corner and you lose a lot of grip, and he had no option but to tuck back in.
Wow, unbelievable racing.
Man.
That was so fun to watch. And then nails his last corner, and this is an easy place to make a mistake and lose everything you just fought for. But they did a great job, and Darling, give credit where credit is due. As you mentioned, clean, fair racing all around. Here's a look at your race results, and that was a race worth watching, Greg, for sure.
Oh, it was, absolutely. Just a superb drive by O'Gorman and Darling. They were very clean. They worked each other very well, built that little bit of a margin, then went racing. There was never any contact. They pushed hard. Then Alessandrini, Walbaum, and Corrins, that was just a flat-out war. And great stuff.
On to 11th through 20th, Austin Barnes fights back for a P11. Chris Roberts, 31st to 13th. I'd say that's a job well done in 20 minutes.
That might be the drive of the race, obviously. The guys up front running for the win, but to come through this field and do it apparently pretty cleanly, that's impressive stuff.
And how about Ryan Kristoff was fighting tooth and nail in his heat, makes it and finishes 16th, top 20. Remember that 1 through 19 earned points all the way down to Darian Taggart, so that'll be a point for the number 20 after a hard-fought heat where he got crashed, had to fight back in the LCQ. Here's a look at some other finishers here, but 40 cars deep, our field of drivers that competed tonight, and we had battles all over the racetrack. And how about that first lap there, Greg? A couple cars turned around in turn 1. Other than that, no major dramas.
Yeah, and if you remember I think it was the LCQ where everybody lost their heads completely going into the inner loop on that first lap. And this one, everybody got through there cleanly as well. So I think everybody had their eyes on the big picture. This was twice as long as the other races. So be smart about it. You're going to be able to get back into it and get after it. And I just want to say we saw those little moments in that last corner onto the pit straight. I was announcing a World Challenge race here where the entire 3-car Bimmer World team took each other out in that corner. So it's treacherous.
It is treacherous. Time for our last trivia question. Gingerman Raceway was designed by Alan Wilson. What other racetrack did Wilson design that is currently on the GRIDLIFE schedule? And it looks like we already have one of our winners selected. All right, time to talk to our finishers. Let's talk to DJ Alessandrini first. He finished in 3rd place. DJ, hard-fought race. Seemed like you were preoccupied with Matt Corrins for the majority of that race. Do you think that cost you an opportunity to run up and catch Paul Darling and Tom O'Gorman?
I mean, the only way I was going to have anything for Tom and Paul is if I just raced better than them. They were faster than me for sure. So it would have been one of those races where if you could pull out a win, not being the fastest car, but unfortunately, that didn't work out. I had a little bit of a flat slide going the last turn, and Mac fought me going into T1, and I was like a second out, and those two were drafting together pretty well. It was kind of tough to fight them, and then at some point the gloves came off, and we started trying to kill each other, and that's when the fun started. And yeah, honestly, I wasn't happy with my pace tonight, but I was happy with how I managed what I had.
And DJ, I got to ask you a couple of times, once on the front straight, once in the run from the toe to the heel, you sort of chopped over on Corrins a little bit. Was that just trying to break any potential draft?
No, it's more like at Watkins Glen, it's a really weird track where like you don't really want to fight anybody outside of just the straightaway leading into the bus stop, just because the draft is so important, and fighting anywhere else doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's kind of me encouraging that we have good behavior to stay in the draft. Like as you notice, like right when I started getting fought into turn 1 is kind of when it turned into a battle for 3rd rather than saving tires for later in the race to potentially try to take the win. So Mac had a different agenda. I thought we were on the same wavelengths, but when he started fighting me, I realized that we weren't in sync with exactly how we wanted that race to go.
All right, well, nonetheless, great job. Nice podium run, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, DJ finishes on the podium after not even finishing the race last time around. So that was where DJ ended up last week, up into the podium this week. Paul Darling finished in second this week. Came down to the last lap battle between you and Tomo. Paul, that was a fight for the ages. Take us through your perspective of that battle, and did you know Tom had you on that climb up to turn 9?
Yeah, that was a really fun battle with Tomo. We raced each other clean and hard. I think that's epitome of the series. But yeah, the last 2 laps, I think you saw I backed off on the second to last lap. I wanted to make it a last lap run because Tomo was so much better than me on the brakes, much more aggressive and able to hold it than I could in the Audi. Probably driver's error there. But yeah, going up the hill, was able to pull ahead like I was anticipating. But that side-by-side in the last few corners, as soon as Tomo was able to hold it around the outside of the toe of the boot, I knew that was pretty much it with the way the camber works and that left-hander as you exit the boot. Once if someone's on your inside, you're not going to be able to fight them too wide there. So that was a really great race by Tom.
We were just watching some slow-mo of you into the inner loop. At one point, it looked like you missed your turn-in just a little bit and then really got a big hop over the curb. You were able to hang on to it, but that had to be a bit of a heart-in-the-throat moment.
Oh yeah, these cars are all over the place. Try to get on any throttle, and they'll just go straight. Still trying to get my head wrapped around the front-wheel drive thing. They do enjoy the understeer a lot.
Yeah, it's a world that they live in, that's for sure. Nicely done.
Thank you very much, guys.
Paul Darling second tonight to Tom O'Gorman, a 4-time winner in the IMSA Michelin. A 4-time winner in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. Tom O'Gorman gets it done here at Watkins Glen. We were talking about your Pirelli World Challenge days running here in a Honda Civic TCA car, Tom. Tonight, though, in the TCR, battling Paul Darling there on that last lap. Textbook moves. That had to be a fun fight. Looked like you had it in the bag for a little while, but Paul ran you back down.
Oh, man, this is the same amount of intense, if not more intense, than real racing. It's so fun. And honestly, like, this is the first GRIDLIFE iRacers round I've gotten to run in a very long time, and to get to do it race with my friends in a car that I've gotten to race in real life on a track that I love in a livery that represents the team I get to race with now is like the freaking coolest thing. So, getting to win on top of that is awesome. This is the first car in iRacing that I've really clicked with in a while, which is super cool because they really did get it very, very accurate. And man, I'm still shaking a little. I'm a little shakes in the hands.
Hey, Tomo, I got to ask you, on the lap when you ended up, on that last lap when you took the lead, it looked like that pass started coming out of the outer loop, and as you headed down into the laces of the boot, you popped your nose inside of Paul there. Were you even that early thinking that this is going to pay off up into 9?
Yeah, I kind of knew from the bus stop to the start-finish line was mine, as far as the pace of the car, and the only thing kind of keeping him with me through that section of the track was the draft, and then the Audi is obviously so much faster down the straights. So he was doing super good in a car that's hard to stay consistent in the corners, but that pass had to start way back there to kind of get him off his rhythm a little bit, and I was kind of dipping my toe into the water on the pass down into 7, because you can kind of poke the nose early there, and if someone sees you, you might be able to rattle them a bit. I know you've seen that move plenty of times. and it didn't quite work that way, but it started that over-under for the rest of the lap, and it was lucky that it worked out, I think, because if I didn't get by the time we got to about 9, I was in trouble.
Well, I got to tell you, it was the epitome of what I've talked about very often about racing being high-speed chess and having to plan moves ahead, and that was a beauty, my friend.
Thank you. It's also a pleasure to get to talk to you again. I'm so glad you're doing this with us.
I'm having a blast. I'm grateful for the invite.
Well, Tom, congratulations. Winning at Watkins Glen, one of potentially more of the season, so we'll see you there. Hopefully see you next week as well, Tom. Congrats, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, Greg. With that's the end of the interviews for tonight. Our top 3 all here. What a battle. What a blast. That was so much fun. This is my home track up in Watkins Glen, and it never fails to put on a show, Greg. This is just one of the fastest and most fun racetracks in North America, and the TCR cars here put on a great show.
Well, TCR cars are all about speed because of their aero, and this is a track that's all about speed. And so it's a perfect mesh. There's no question about that. And these guys put on an absolutely superb evening. of racing and some really close quarter stuff. And we saw with Tomo and Paul Darling that you can race incredibly hard against each other and be as absolutely spotless clean as you can. And they really, I think, put an exclamation point on this race.
Well, there is still 6 more rounds to go. It's not too late to join the GridLife iRacers Winter Touring Car Classic. If you'd like to join, there are 2 drop rounds out of the 8 rounds this season, so that means you can join still with no penalty up until next Tuesday. And we're going to head right back to the airport and right back on a plane, right back to Italy where we started the season. Imola is up next. We'll see you there next week for a round at Imola. Round 3. We'll see you there.